Hey everybody, welcome to the My 360 Mindset podcast with your host, Coach Mike Shaves. I'm here with Dr. Nick, and today we're going to be talking about some physical therapy, some random stuff, and I'm just really excited to jump into it. I'm here to introduce myself, I'm here to introduce Dr. Nick, and just chop it up, man. Thanks for being here. Let's go. Let's come on, fire me up. So first of all, this is our first episode, so I kind of wanted to jump into a little bit about me for them. Because we've obviously talked about how, about what I do and where I've been, but you guys don't know me. So for starters, my name is Mike Shaves Jr. I'm from Hudson, Massachusetts, and I have baseball playing experience. I played 6 years of college baseball, and I was able to get my master's out of that. So I've kind of taken my experience in baseball, my knowledge in the world of psychology, and combined the two, and now I have a mega passion for sports psych and helping athletes achieve peak performance. But yeah, so the first thing I kind of wanted to do for everybody is I kind of wanted to have Dr. Nick introduce himself. So here you go. Here's the floor is yours, and we are in, man.
All right. Tell me about yourself. I'm Dr. Nick. I'm a rehab chiropractor. I own Beacon Chiropractic and Performance, which is going to be located right out of ImpactSportsLab starting in July. I have a background in strength and conditioning, exercise science from Springfield College. Went on to get my chiropractic degree from, Northeast College of Health Sciences, what they call it now. And yeah, passion for helping athletes, barbell athletes, active adults, get back to doing what they love long term and being a part of, sports, being a part of their community, and just staying as healthy and active for as long as possible.
Boom. So tell me, when was your first exposure to sports or this kind of world? Did you play sports in high school, anything like that?
Yeah, so I was never the best person on my team. I played baseball and soccer in high school, and then that's actually when I started training and lifting weights, and I realized that sports kept getting in the way of lifting weights, and I was way better at lifting weights than I was at sports. Gotcha. So about my junior year of high school, I just went full-time into powerlifting and strongman, and then found out that you could get a degree in that, and I was definitely getting a degree in lifting weights. Yeah. Ever since then, just have a love and a passion for training and for sports and all that stuff.
What's your favorite lift?
Probably the squat. The king of all lifts.
Front or back? Straight back, right?
Back squat,
yeah.
Of course.
What are you putting up these days?
I just competed a couple weeks ago, and I squatted 585
pounds.
Yeah.
585 pounds.
Not kilos. That's like a 1,200 pounds.
No, I'm saying, dude, I'm not. If I got under a bar with 400 pounds, I would crumble into dust right now. But it's here. No, but and then so you went on. So you fell in love with kind of the weightlifting world.
Yeah.
The strongman competitions. Were you competing in high school in that, or just kind of doing it on the side of your sports?
Once I stopped playing formal sports, that's when I kind of got into it. I didn't compete till I was in college.
Nice.
Where I went, they had a powerlifting strongman team, so I was a part of that all 4 years. Competed in powerlifting, competed in strongman. Just everything about where I went to undergrad was very much about sports, lifting weights, being an athlete. So it was a good kind of background to set me up for where I am today. Yeah.
So and then let's talk a little bit about your time in your undergrad, because I know a lot of people that end up getting higher degrees say they get a lot out of their master's program or their doctoral programs. Mm-hmm. But I think it's cool that you're able to get the strength and conditioning not out of the way, but build a foundation for what you do in the chiropractic world and the rehab stuff with that strength and conditioning. So what were some of the cool things coming out of your undergrad that you were able to say, hey, this is going to be very useful in this path that now I'm on? You know what I'm saying? What were some of the key things that you see that in the weight room that helps out with the stuff you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the background in strength and conditioning is primarily what I do in practice. Obviously, I have the doctorate to kind of make sure that the person in front of me should be there. They're nothing that I need to refer out for, and they're not actively having a medical emergency. And then from that point, we go through the diagnostic stuff, and then it's really kind of a blend of the doctorate training, and then most of the time it's the exercise science principles, so basic strength and conditioning stuff. So it's like taking the best of both worlds and meshing them together, but having a really strong foundation in rehab and strength and conditioning to take all the stuff that we do in the treatment room and make sure that we're able to go do squats and lunges and running and cutting and jumping either with less pain or in a pain-free window.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch upon this later, but I think it's so cool that you're able to like kind of wear both hats and take one off, take the other one off. You know what I'm saying? Like interchange both worlds of like, yeah, I have competencies in the world of chiropractic and the rehab stuff, but then I can go out there and I can still show you how to lift correctly. And I'm sure we'll jump into that later about why that makes you different. Yeah. But I think it's really cool. And then from there you go on. Did you go right into a doctoral program? Did you do a master's in between?
Yeah, no, I actually took some time off, worked as a strength coach for a little while, and then did the craziest thing I've ever done for money and go back to grad school. Yeah. It's just right into a doctorate program, which is like, drinking from a fire hose. Yeah. It's a lot of information, but yeah, that was kind of the path, right? Jumped right into to grad school.
Gotcha. And then that was rewarding. I'm sure you were able to get a lot. My buddy and I, he was telling me this. We always are just chopping it up, and he mentioned like from the time that we're like in kindergarten, and if you pursue a higher education degree up into a doctorate, up into your, you can be 26, 27. Yeah. You're just getting force-fed information by professors and all this info, and you're not really putting a lot out there. You're just taking a lot of stuff in. Yeah. So how are you able to kind of navigate that? Because again, I'm looking forward to going and getting a PhD. So
you say that now.
Yeah, exactly. You say that now. So you answer this question right here, but like, how much were you able to really take in and kind of like that you use in practice now? Like was it valuable? Do you regret getting it? Are you happy you went and got the PhD? What is the it's
just a clinical doctor?
Clinical doctor of chiropractic. Are you thankful that you got it? Or are you like, I didn't need that? Or
yeah, no, I definitely am glad that I got it, and I don't have like my like view of school. I'm much more of like a hands-on do it type of learner. So like grad school is very much just getting like talked at the whole time. Yeah. I definitely enjoyed the clinical part of it where you're like, okay, you learn all this stuff and now you actually get to go do it. And so once we got to that point, I was like, okay, this is worth it. But the first 2 years you're kind of like, wow, this is a lot of information. Why am I doing this? But then after, it's like actually getting out and doing the job, and what I do now versus what school teaches you to do are two very different things. And that's kind of where like the exercise science degree comes in pretty handy, is that like that's, I lean on that more so than like the actual, treatment education that I got. Boom. So it's grad school is a lot, but again, it's something that now I have access to people that have actual ridiculous pain and like things that are a little bit more complicated that you can't necessarily, or you're not as equipped to handle if you're just a strength coach or a trainer or something like that. So it's like I'm the person who, it's when it's time, like the training modifications are not working. It's like, okay, now it's my turn to kind of step in and be like, okay, what's actually going on here? Maybe there's a different modification that I know of or can think of that the coach didn't, and then it's a collaboration between both of us to make sure that everything is for the athlete, not to the athlete. Yeah,
and I love that because like we've talked about before, and now we can say it here so people hear it. Like our job is not to educate an athlete, and they're not trying to get a clinical degree in chiropractic or rehab or strength conditioning or exercise science. Like we're educating them on how they can help themselves and giving them the tools to kind of put into their own practice that they can then use to perform. Like when I was an athlete and I was going to a strength conditioning coach or something, like I'm concerned with what the exercise is going to do for me, like from a scientific point of view. Mm-hmm. But I'm also just worried, like, hey, is this going to make me hit a baseball further? Like stuff like that, So when we're athletes and when you work with athletes, work with general population, they're more concerned about like, hey, how is this going to make me better? Because that's what they're there for. Yeah. But no, this is good, and I think this is a good segue because we've touched upon it again in conversation that we've had, but I kind of want to hear, more about what makes you different and how you approach, because people think chiropractic, they're going in, they're getting their neck snapped and all that stuff. So I kind of want to, because again, we've already talked about it, but I want to hear about, what makes you different in your practice and like, you kind of away from the general chiropractic field. Yeah, no, absolutely. So as far as like chiropractic goes in general, like there's a lot of good to take from it. There's also the side of the profession that I'm not so thrilled with. And so
kind of laying out what the side I'm not so thrilled with typically looks like. It's very much a high volume numbers game, so it's quick appointments, 5-10 minutes, and patient comes in, they lay on the table, I call it like rack and crack, and then boom, they're out the door, and it's like, what the hell happened? Like, I don't they might feel good, but then it's like this kind of like ever revolving door of just like appointments and treatment that they get told like, oh, you need to keep coming back in here forever to like get adjusted, and that's how you're going to maintain the pain-free feeling. And that's not really what happens. Like, that's not, in my mind, not a sustainable model of practice. And that's not for the patient. That's very much, you're just doing things to the patient, and they're like, the word patient, right? They're literally just being patient. They're laying on the table and like, I'm doing stuff to them. They're not doing anything for themselves. There's no active component to it. So I knew going into school that was not how I was going to do things. Like, I knew that the rehab side and the exercise side was going to be a big part of my practice. And so, in school they tell you that like, that's not how it works. And I always knew that was not true because I've seen it work, in real life. And so when I got out, opened my own practice, everything in my practice is, 4 patients, not 2 patients. And everything's an hour long. Like, all the sessions are an hour. You work directly with me one-on-one. So I'm not, turfing you off to an aide or a high school kid doing, working in the clinic, just kind of taking you through some exercises. Your plan is your plan. Like, there might be exercises that we do with, I do with people that have low back pain, but it's never just, here's this like sheet of home exercise program that someone developed in the 80s and is completely useless for someone who's looking to return to high level baseball, right? You can do band rotator cuff till the cows come home, but like, you need to strengthen the shoulder and make sure that you can throw. Yeah. So it's very much, higher end rehab, higher end plans, making sure that everyone has clarity, that you don't leave a session with questions about what you should be doing outside of here. I still do the adjustments and the manual therapy stuff, but it's very much it opens up a window for us to go move with less pain and to do the rehab work that is actually going to be the thing that gets you the outcome that you're looking for. Yeah. So
no, that's big, and the reoccurring theme throughout that whole explanation, at least that I took away, is like, it's just individualized, man. Mm-hmm. Like, the coolest thing about, and again, we're going to talk about this too, like, why having you join Impact and what we're doing on My 360 Mindset is so big, because we're right there with you and in the field of being innovative and really just being individualized to each person that comes in. Mm-hmm. Like, think about how many different walks of life you could deal with in 1 week. Of if you're just getting random people that are coming in with different ailments and stuff they have to work through. Everybody's going to have their own baggage. And if you're just giving them like, oh yeah, you have lower back pain, okay, this is what this person did, that, hey, God, go, that guy will take care of you over there. It's just not, and again, I've never been to a chiropractor, but I do know that if I'm going to you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I'll get the family discount. But no, and it's cool to hear. And again, I don't think it's a knock to any other professional that's in the chiropractic world. Like, no, just like there's different approaches to a medical doctor that sees heart attack patients or people that are having cardiac issues. Like, it's just an approach. It's how you attend to your patients and make it individualized for them. So that's why I think it's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's never a knock at anyone else. And for some people that works. And if they enjoy that, and that they find benefit from it, absolutely, like, totally fine. Yeah. I work with the people who that model has failed them, or traditional PT has failed them. And it's like, hey, I'm looking to do something that, it's not just, okay, I can like lift my arm overhead and I can like walk, to my mailbox and back. It's like, okay, I want to return to, D1 baseball. I'm a national level strongman athlete and I need to be able to do all these crazy events. And it's like, some of these providers, you say that to them and they have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And so like, that's where my kind of specialty lies, is like understanding like what the person in front of you is actually trying to do. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, you need to be able to do, a CrossFit athlete, like, you need to do a kipping pull-up. Like, what does that look like? And like, I understand what that is. What are the physical requirements that we need to do something like that, and kind of building a rehab plan that gets us back to competition level movements.
Boom. So, and I love that the way you're painting that, because again, it's so similar to like the world of psychology and how like psychological professionals handle their patients and their clients. Is like, there's some subjective component to what's going on. Like if someone's going to come in and they're going to tell you how they're feeling, what's going on. It's not just like, hey, like how much range of motion can we get to? It's like, okay, where are you in concern, like pertaining to your goals, and where are you at? Where can we get you back to? All that stuff is huge. And again, I think if patients are able to come in and just feel that sense that like they're not a number, and they're like, hey, like, I remember what we're working on because we're doing it for an hour every week or every 2 weeks, whatever their cadence is. But just having that, like I said, that individuality that they can come in and be like, hey, Dr. Nick's taking care of me, I think is so cool.
Yeah.
So I think it's really nice. But yeah, I did mention the whole impact, and you mentioned it as well. Talk to me about how you first got in contact with Ian over here at Impact, because I want to hear it. I haven't heard the story.
It's not as glorious as you might think. I actually went over to the Pure Drive Golf next door.
Nice.
And I was sitting in my car, and I had known about Impact, but I didn't know actually where it was. And I was sitting in my car, and I literally watched someone open the door, and I saw the Impact logo, and I was like, oh,
that's right.
That's what that is. And I was like, well, I'm here. I might as well pop in. And, Ian was literally sitting at the front desk. The gym was completely empty. And I think we ended up, chatting for like an hour and a half just about...
Mini podcast with no camera.
Podcast with no camera about, like what they're doing here, what I'm doing, business stuff, and just kind of like... that my practice was expanding and I was looking for a place, and that's, driving around town looking for space. And he was like, oh, we have a room that is currently, unoccupied if that's something that you'd be interested in. And so after, conversations and all that sort of stuff, the logistics of it ended up working out. And so now we're here, and it was very much a core value match, right? Like I have my clinical core values, and they're also my business core values as well. And that meshed very well with the impact message and the My 360 mindset message. And so it was like, it's a logical move for all of us to, work together to bring, the best possible performance training, performance mindset training, performance rehab in one location.
Yeah, having it under one roof is sick. I really thought it was going to be a more exciting story, like you both reach for a napkin at Chipotle and touch hands, and then all of a sudden like, oh, back pain in heaven. But no, talk about a little tidbit for anybody that's looking to make a move. Like, take that chance, walk in and talk to somebody, because you never know what it can be. But nonetheless, not that I'm trying to go full on motivational speaking, but
that's right.
But no, it's cool, and I think it's so true. Like what we're trying to create here at Impact is everything under one roof, and no one has that. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, the rehab, the mindset, the the nutrition that we do, the performance stuff that we do out there, all our great coaches. It's cool, and just like it's called, clinical, psychotherapy or physical therapy, like we're here to serve and to provide that service for people that come in. Like someone might come in, athletes or anybody, any individual might come in looking for your services and benefit from ours. Exactly. And vice versa. I might have a mental skill athlete that all of a sudden gets hurt in their sport, and now they got somebody right in-house they can go talk to, pop in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, it just makes so much sense, for you and for us to have us all under one roof, because there are probably plenty of athletes that do get hurt, and they have those mental battles, and they have to work through those mental obstacles with mental skills. Yep. So I didn't know if you wanted to touch upon some of the instances where you kind of seen athletes need that mental skill work and kind of didn't have access to it at one point, if you have any examples.
Yeah, no, I actually have one. She's a current patient now, no names or anything, but of course. Someone who definitely it's very much like you get injured doing something, and it's like, okay, barring all tissue healing parameters have been met, it's like everything is okay from a tissue standpoint, and now it's okay, can we start to bring some of the symptoms down, can we start to get back to doing similar enough movements? And it's we're at that point now where we're kind of getting back to the thing that hurt her in the first place. And there's a lot of mental hang up, and again, this is your world, so if I say something that's not, then I'm like, okay, that's not how you say that.
Yeah, it's not
please let me know. But
no, you're good.
We're getting to that point where it's like, she's at the gym doing something, and she's like, hey, I am I'm starting to feel a little bit of pain, so I immediately just stop what I'm doing. And it's like, okay, we'd have a conversation about allowable discomforts and pain and all that sort of stuff, and it's like, where is it the fear that you're having with the pain and or with the movement, and is it something that, you know, physically nothing is going wrong,
yes,
but it's that kind of like mental trigger of like, okay, this has been painful in the past. And I was like, I think that is like, she's a perfect example of someone who can benefit from that mental skills component because she's a high level athlete. And it's like, okay, you know, we're taking care of you physically. Nothing else is wrong. Nothing is like glaringly wrong. We're building strength back and all that stuff. But how do we kind of like get over that hurdle of doing the thing that really, you know, aggravated her back in the first place?
Yeah.
So I guess that's
my
most recent example. Like, there's more, but
my brain already starts spinning because the first thing that comes to mind is like athletes are going to have anxieties about their injury. Like you have an overhead throwing athlete, a baseball player, just because it's my field, like they get Tommy John. Like when they go to throw that baseball game, they're gonna, you know, have anxiety. And I always ask people this, and I want to ask you, like in your mind, what's the opposite of anxiety? If I ask, it's like Family Feud. If I go ask 100 people, what's the opposite of anxiety?
The opposite of anxiety, I would say, man, I don't know if this is the right answer, but like being content, like you're like okay with something.
Close. Most people say relaxed.
Relaxed. Okay.
Relaxed. But I would go out to argue with a patient like this. And this is a little tidbit for those at home. The opposite is confident.
Sure.
Because if you're anxious that you left the stove on at home and you go keep checking and see if you left it on, it's because you're not confident you turned it off. You know, if you're
do that.
You know, say, oh yeah, I have to run back in the house. I get outside, I'm like, I gotta go back in there. Yeah, I don't want the house burning down. No, but if someone's, you know, anxious about the future, they're not confident in the path they're on to get them to where they want to be. Or if someone's anxious about an injury, they're not confident that, you know, what they've been doing is going to put them in a position to be ready to get back and do it. So that's where, again, the intertwine between the world of psych and the world of what you're doing is huge, because everybody's going to feel a sense of anxiety at some point along the way.
Yeah.
You know, especially if someone, again, now that I'm stepping into your world, I don't know if the terminology is right, but say someone, you know, breaks their ankle or something where they get to a point where it's immobile and they can't move it for months. What happens when they go to take that first step? They can be like, ooh, I haven't moved this in a while. I'm not too confident in my ability to move it.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, that's where I think the mental skill stuff is so crucial for, you know, people that are dealing with injuries or any type of setback, because at one point they're on top of the world. Like you said, I mean, some of these strong men are lifting, they're hitting PRs, you know, month to month, and all of a sudden they tweak something and now they're not hitting that anymore, you know? And there's so much more that goes into it, and why, you know, Dr. Tucci here, our other mental skill coaches, we try to be very individualized. Again, there's those core values lining up on what we do, because it's not like a cookie cutter, one size fits all with mental skills. Like somebody might come in here and they have their own set of issues that we have to deal with, and it's just like what you do. That's why I think the fit is so big. And that's one thing that I wanted to mention too, is like the services that you're getting when you now come in here, because now you're going to be moving into our spot here at ImpactSportsLab. It's going to be great. You know, these are stuff that now people have access to that they won't have access to at other places. And it's not like, you know, we couldn't take somebody that's going through rehab somewhere else, but you're right here. Yeah. And it's a relationship between like, hey, like I can go talk to you and be, hey, like what were they dealing with today? What was their, you know, their subjective feelings about how things were going. And then I can then take the reins and be like, hey, let's have a conversation, you know? Yeah. So I think that's what's going to be really cool. I did want to bring up the video that we both watched today, and I'm going to link it for everybody else below, Joe Rogan style, baby, any other podcaster style. I'm going to link it below so you guys can take part in watching it and then come back and watch our conversation about it. But really, I'll set the tone. It's basically the story. It's a TED Talk, and this guy ends up getting MS, and his doctor basically tells him he's going to be disabled. And he goes on his way to basically become not disabled and ends up curing his MS to a certain extent, correct? Is that what you got out of it? Or he basically got to a point where he could...
it wasn't detectable.
Yeah, exactly.
All the scans were clean.
Yes, and the reason I wanted to bring it up is kind of, you know, as an example, you know, an extreme example, because, you know, you're not dealing with people with MS, I'm assuming. But for an extreme example of like how the correct mindset about your injury or your rehab process can benefit you. Yeah. And I kind of wanted to kind of give the ball to you a little bit and talk about how you've seen maybe individuals that have been more positive towards their rehab kind of bounce back, not quicker, but not putting any objective term onto it, but just like more efficiently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the perfect segue. So usually when I'm onboarding a new patient, I usually have a phone call with them first. And one of the questions I ask them is like, do you think that there is a solution to this problem? And it's very much like, yeah, like a lot of them say yes, and they're like, I have to, I don't have any other option.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, like that's the people who are usually the most successful are the ones who start off with kind of a positive attitude towards this. And then, some people say no, and usually that's like, okay, like understandable, like this has been going on for, a decade. And you've tried everything else.
I was going to say that. They probably tried other people, and they're putting all their time, effort, and money. Sometimes if they're going private and not getting some help, like they're putting their money into this, right?
So it's an investment for sure.
And it's not working. So like I said, so you're basically saying that there's people that come in with that, like, even just an ounce of positivity, like, oh yeah, there's a way to get out of this. I just haven't figured out the reason or way to do that,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Boom. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to the table today and kind of provide a little education to them, but also just kind of chop up about is this term like of the study of psychoneuroimmunology. So it's basically, I have the notes so I can be accurate, all right? But basically it studies the interaction between psychological processes and your nervous system and immune system. And one of the things I talk to a lot of athletes about, because, in the mental skill realm, especially with sports, a lot of people talk about negative self-talk and negativity and trying to overcome that negativity.
Sure.
What's cool about what we're talking about here and what psychoneuroimmunology studies is basically how we can overcome and match the negative thoughts to then cancel them out and give ourselves the best chance to improve, if that makes sense. So basically what they're saying, and I'll paint the picture like this to everybody in the room. If I told you, hey, I want you to walk down this dark tunnel at the middle of the night, okay? Your first instinct's probably going to be like, I'm going to die. Or something bad's going to happen to me in this dark tunnel at night, right?
Where is this tunnel?
Where are we? Exactly. Where are we? Like, oh my God. It's not like, is there going to be free samples like we're at BJ's? Like, we don't automatically assume positivity.
Sure.
If someone rolls their ankle or comes to you with some form of need to rehabilitate, I'm almost sure that their initial thoughts like something negative. Yeah. Something like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to me, or like, all that stuff that we all go through when something bad happens. We've all been through injuries. We've all done it, right? So in order to fight off that negativity, people that study psychoneuroimmunology say that there's a 2-to-1 ratio that gives us the best chance to bounce back from an injury. So if we're able to match two positive or neutral thoughts to every negative thought, we put ourselves in a better spot to come back from an injury, or to benefit our nervous and immune system functioning. Now, that doesn't directly relate to what you do with your, but
I think it does a little bit.
Talk to me about that. How do you see it connected?
So now you've asked me a bunch of questions. I have questions for you.
Talk to me.
So I'm thinking of I have a patient who had like pretty bad neck pain, and it was like turning his head, like looking over his shoulder. He couldn't do it, and then it's like, okay, I had him sit down, and I'm like, there from a tissue level, there wasn't anything wrong. Mm-hmm. So it was like, what is going on here? Like, is it just that kind of perceived threat of like looking over the shoulder? So I had him sit down. I was like, all right, stare straight ahead, and now look to your left, look to your right, painful. I was like, okay, stand, and he's on like a little rolly, spinny stool. Look ahead, straight ahead, and then you're gonna walk your legs to the left, and you're gonna walk your legs to the right. It's the exact same motion.
Yeah.
And he was like, that doesn't hurt. And I'm like, you just did rotation, like turned your head. I'm like, now go back and turn your head. He's like, still a little bit of pain, but he was like, that's better.
Yeah.
And you're like, I didn't touch him, didn't do any soft tissue, didn't adjust his neck, nothing. All I did was just like kind of interrupt that like expectation circle of like, this movement hurts. And it's this exact same motion, but just changing something.
Yeah.
And like, voiding that expectation that it's going to hurt. So like, would you say that like physical movements can also have a role in kind of like that 2-to-1 thought, negative thought to positive thought?
Well, there's a couple different theories. One thing I will mention is essentially, if I were to dissect that from my point of view, like if we're doing a session where you're telling me this and he's here and we're breaking this down, it's really an anxiety that he has of turning his neck because he's scared of the pain. Like he has felt a true threat of feeling the pain at one point in his life of like, hey, when I turn this way, it hurts. Mm-hmm. So the best way to not have that pain happen is to avoid doing that.
Sure.
And then it creates over time when you keep you keep not going this way because you know it's going to hurt, and then that one time you try it and it reinforces that, okay, whenever I turn this way, it hurts me.
Sure.
So I'm going to start avoiding that. It's called the safety behavior. There's 5 different safety behaviors that people do when they kind of feel that anxiety from a false threat. And what I mean by false threat is that it's a threat that we perceive as something that can hurt us, but it's actually not real.
Sure.
So this thing that he's feeling at one point was a threat because it was hurting him. But because it was reinforced by, that every time he turned, he feels that pain.
Sure.
He's now like, okay, every time I do that from now on, it's going to hurt. So it's a false threat now. It's something that's not there anymore, but he is actively avoiding doing this because he's scared that's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
If that kind of makes sense. I know that was a kind of a word.
No, it's like fear avoidance behaviors.
Basically,
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And we call them false. I think it's false safety behaviors. That's the terminology Dr. Tucci uses.
Sure.
And it's basically plugging in these safety behaviors into this cycle that never ends, because you basically start with some type of trigger or an event that you're anxious about.
Sure.
You start getting anxiety. You commit one of these safety behaviors, avoiding that. You get a sense of relief. But then you get a sense of shame right after because okay, it's only like, I don't hurt now, but I'm going to hurt eventually,
Right.
And then it wraps back into being scared of being hurt eventually. And then it's a full cycle and it continues and continues. So breaking out of that is hard, but it's also very doable, and that's kind of the work that we do. So it's nice, man. And I think, again, like I've said a couple times already, I think patients, clients, people that come in our door, because that's what they are, they're people to us. We're helping each other out. They're helping us learn. We're helping them get better.
Absolutely.
They're going to benefit from it, and just like that guy in that video, I'll wrap it back to that. He was able to take information, whether for him it was bad information, and run with it because he was able to think about it in a certain way, just restructure it in his brain. Instead of thinking, hey, I'm going to be disabled, no, that's what they're telling me, but I got things to do. So he restructured it as I'm going to prove them wrong.
Sure.
And whatever way it helps them get better, I don't care. We got to help them get better the best we can. But yeah, man, that's pretty much what I wanted to touch upon. I did kind of want to leave everybody. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Because I'm here all day. I got nowhere to be.
Yeah, this was on the schedule for today.
Yeah, no.
There's some burning question you have. I think.
No, I'm good, man. I'm chilling. I'm thankful for your time today. But I do want to leave everybody with a couple things that you do and you currently do with your with individuals that come to see you that kind of promote their mental well-being, promote their mental skills, or and then I'll kind of give 3 things that athletes can do when they go to you to kind of benefit from it on the mental side, just so they have something to take away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the kind of top 3 highlights of the again, mental skills in that world is your world.
Of course, no, of course.
But I inadvertently have to it's part of my job, right? Because you're still dealing with some of those things, and so really helping people set the expectations of if depending on what the severity of the injury or their perceived severity of it, understanding that it's okay to be afraid and that's okay to be frustrated that it happened. Those are okay emotions to have. You don't have to be just super stoic about the whole thing. You said break your ankle. I broke my ankle or broke my leg actually, and it was.
How did you do that?
Skiing. Just smashed it into 4 pieces. So
I've never been skiing. I'd break my neck if I went skiing.
It wasn't good, and it was I was scared and I was frustrated, and it was just I had a little bit of a different perspective because of my job, but understanding that it's okay to be afraid of the unknown of what's going to happen, and frustrated that's happening. And then kind of the second bullet point is setting very clear expectations of progress is almost never just this nice linear straight line. It's more of kind of this wavy, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. But what we want to look at is that the trend line is going up over time. So, and that's really where my job is to help them navigate some of those dips. It's hey, we're doing really good, and then we tried something new, and we had a little bit of pain come back. It's okay, let's acknowledge it for what it is, and then figure out how to kind of get back on the upslope. So yeah, progress isn't linear. And then the last one is find something that you can do. Whether it's, when I broke my leg, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm overhead pressing in a wheelchair and benching with my leg out on a box, chair deadlifts. I'm just trying to do anything that I can possibly do to just to have some semblance of a routine and what I normally do day to day. And that, being involved with, if it's a team sport, being involved with the team, like going to practice, like doing the things, obviously keeping safety in mind. like
deadlifting
to a point, right? But being part of the team, like go to practice, like be involved, like don't lose that community feeling that you have with a team or with your sport or with your gym or whatever, because that part of it, that community, that social support is only going to help you recover versus just kind of isolating yourself and being like, I'm stuck with this for forever. Because for the most part, most musculoskeletal injuries are not a forever thing. That we do heal, and there are ways to work around it. So that's my top 3 greatest hits list things.
No, that's big time, dude. And I think the 3, because again, I want to give athletes 3 things that they can do when they come to see you to kind of make their life a little bit easier, make your life easier.
Sure.
But yeah, like you guys just heard, Dr. Nick is gonna be in there to validate your emotions. So if you guys come in and you're telling him stuff, he's going to take it into account because he's going to be aware, again, everything's individualized. So when you go to see him, he's going to take care of you and make sure that he's taking all the information from you and then making a plan for you. So one thing I would definitely say for you guys is to be very mindful of how you're feeling. Whether you're writing it down, whether you're just noting it between your ears, you need to be very mindful of how your body feels and how you can further explain to Dr. Nick when you come in, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I felt last night before I went to bed. Any type of information you can give him is going to make him a better version of himself, correct me if I'm wrong, for you. So that's one thing I would say. The next thing I would say goes perfectly with what you said is kind of, you said set the plan, right? Like, visualize your end goal. Visualize where you want to be. At so many points, like we forget how close we are to where our goals are at because we're continuing to move, but we never bring that goal closer to us. Visualize where that end goal is. If you know, okay, my end goal is to get back on the field and, pitch 4 innings, then guess what? Tell him that so he knows, hey, I can give you a plan and this is where we roughly will get you back on the field. And there might be some obstacles, some setbacks that push that date further, but at least it becomes an objective date. Like, hey, okay, if we don't reach this point, we go back to the drawing board and we set out a better preparation. Is that good? That makes sense? And the last one I said goes, like he was saying, to do something every day to get better. A lot of coaches talk about controlling what you can control, but they don't really tell you what are those things that you can control or talk about it. One thing that you guys can do every day to make your life better in the rehab process and make his life better so when you show up you're not a mess is neutral self-talk. I don't want you to, if you have a broken leg and you have a broken foot, I don't want you sitting there every day saying, oh, my foot's fine, like I'm okay. I want you to say, hey, I've been better and I'm going to get better. I'm in a position right now that really I can't control. I can't make my foot magically get better. But what I can do right now is just stay positive, stay neutral about it, and continue to show up with Dr. Nick and get what I got to do done. Whatever he lays out for you is gonna benefit me. That's what I would say to myself. Whatever he lays out for me, I'm gonna benefit from it today. So might as well give it my full effort. But yeah, so my 3 things just to wrap up are, again, to stay mindful and give him as much info as you can when you come to work with him. To visualize the end goal so you know where you're at and where you want to be. And then continue neutral self-talk, control what you can control. And then every time you show up, you're going to be a better version of yourself so he can help you get back on the field or get back to whatever it is you want to do. But yeah, man, this went good.
Yeah, well, we'll do more.
Oh, no, this is just the start.
Be right next door.
Yeah, be right next to the studio. Don't come into the studio when we're recording, people. This is big time. This is the dojo. But no, it was great having you on, man.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome.
Appreciate it.
I liked it big time. And yeah, check out my 360 Mindset, ImpactSportsLab on Instagram. What's your Instagram for them to know?
My Instagram's at Beacon Chiro Performance, and there will be signs all over the gym at some point with information on how you can work with me, what I do, and who I help.
Hell yeah. Check them out, check us out, and come talk to us. If you have never been here, doors always open. We're always here to meet new people and see how we can be of service. But yeah, thank you for checking out the episode today. Coach Mike with Dr. Nick here, and signing off. Thank you very much.